Emir wiped sweat from her forehead as she jogged across the football field, her breath coming in steady puffs. The sun had dipped below the horizon, leaving streaks of orange and pink to battle the creeping darkness. Practice had been grueling, but she relished the challenge. Football was her escape, her passion. And no one pushed her harder than Coach Ethan. Ethan was a man of discipline, his stern gaze often sharper than his words. But MIA had grown used to his demanding nature, finding comfort in the consistency of his expectations. Tonight, though, his voice had been softer, his eyes lingering on her with something more than professional critique. "Good work today, MIA," he had said as the others packed their bags and headed home. "Can you stay a little longer? I need to discuss something." Her heart skipped a beat, nerves dancing in her stomach. Had she done something wrong? His tone hadn't suggested disappointment, but Ethan was hard to read. "Sure," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. They stood alone in the center of the field, the cool evening air wrapping around them like a silent witness. Ethan looked away, his usual confidence faltering. It was strange, seeing him like this. Vulnerable. "MIA," he began, his words careful, deliberate. "I've been wanting to tell you something. It's complicated. You're talented, driven. But this has nothing to do with football." Confusion tugged at her brows. "What do you mean?" He took a deep breath, his gaze finally meeting hers. "I care about you. More than a coach probably should." The world seemed to tilt under her feet. The intensity in his eyes was unfamiliar, raw. "I've been holding back for a long time because of our positions. But I can't keep pretending it's just professionalism." His voice cracked, his sincerity breaking through the calm facade. "I'm not asking you to feel the same. I just needed you to know." Mia's thoughts tangled, words struggling to form. Ethan's confession wasn't something she'd expected. Yet, as his words settled, she realized her own emotions weren't as clear-cut as she'd thought. I don't know what to say," she admitted, her voice shaky. "This is sudden." "I understand," Ethan replied quickly, his expression a mix of hope and resignation. "I just had to be honest. Whatever you decide, I'll respect it." Mia hesitated, her pulse thrumming in her ears. But when she looked into Ethan's eyes, she saw a vulnerability she'd never imagined. And something about it stirred emotions she hadn't allowed herself to consider. "Yes," she whispered, the word escaping before she could second-guess herself. "I feel something too." Relief washed over Ethan's face, his smile genuine and warm. As they left the field together, Mia's mind spun with questions, but one feeling was clear: she was ready to see where this would lead. The drive to Ethan's apartment was a blur of streetlights and soft conversation, both of them skimming the surface of words, too aware of the charged silence filling the gaps. Mia's fingers twined nervously in her lap, her heart pounding from more than just the rush of Ethan's confession. His apartment was modest but welcoming, a place shaped by practicality rather than luxury. Books were stacked neatly on a wooden shelf, their spines worn from frequent reading. A few framed photographs adorned the walls, snapshots of old friends, family, perhaps, and memories Amir knew nothing about. "Make yourself comfortable," Ethan said, his voice rougher than usual. He gestured towards the dark grey couch before vanishing into the kitchen. Amir settled into the cushions, her gaze flitting around, trying to piece together the man she thought she'd known. Ethan returned with 2 glasses of wine, handing one to her before sitting down at the far end of the couch, as if testing the boundaries of their new reality. "Cheers," he said softly, his eyes searching hers. "To us," she replied uncertainly, lifting her glass. "To whatever this is," Ethan corrected, a nervous chuckle escaping his lips. They sipped, the warmth of the wine loosening the tension between them. "So," May began, her curiosity overriding her hesitation, "how long have you felt this way?" Ethan sighed, his gaze lowering to the glass in his hands. "Longer than I should have. It started as admiration. You're talented, committed, always pushing yourself to be better. But then I started looking forward to practice for reasons that had nothing to do with football." Mia's cheeks flushed. Hearing his honesty was both unsettling and thrilling. "I had no idea," she admitted. "I mean, you've always been so composed. So focused. Discipline, he murmured, a rueful smile curving his lips. It's easier to pretend nothing's wrong when you hide behind professionalism. But I got tired of pretending. Their eyes met, and suddenly the space between them felt insignificant. Mia set her glass down, her fingers fidgeting with the hem of her shirt. I guess I've been hiding, too, she confessed. I admired you. But I thought it was just respect, you know? That's what I kept telling myself. Ethan's gaze softened. And now? Now, Mia hesitated, the truth resting heavy on her tongue. Now, I think maybe it was more than that. Maybe I was just afraid to admit it. Silence settled between them, thick with unspoken promises. Ethan moved closer, his hand reaching out to gently take hers. The touch was electric, sending a shiver up her arm. This doesn't have to be anything more than what you want, Ethan said, his voice low, earnest. I just needed you to know how I felt. Mia squeezed his hand, her own fear melting away beneath the warmth of his touch. I want to see where this goes. Whatever it means. The relief in Ethan's eyes was unmistakable. They sat there, hands intertwined, the night stretching before them with all its possibilities. The minutes slipped by unnoticed as they talked, their conversation flowing with an ease Mia had never expected. Beneath Ethan's disciplined exterior was a gentler, more vulnerable man who laughed freely and listened with genuine interest. His words painted images of his past, his dreams, his loneliness, things Mia had never glimpsed before. Their fingers remained entwined, a subtle connection neither seemed willing to break. As the evening deepened, the world beyond the apartment faded to insignificance. It was just them, their voices tangled in quiet confessions and soft laughter. At some point, Ethan shifted closer, his gaze steady and questioning. Mia, I need you to be sure. About this. About us. I am, she whispered, surprised by the certainty in her own voice. I don't know where this leads, but I want to find out. With you. Ethan's expression melted into something both tender and intense. Slowly, his hand reached up, his fingers brushing against her cheek. The touch was feather-light, as if giving her every chance to pull away. But Mia leaned into it, her eyes closing as the warmth of his skin seeped into her. Their lips met in a gentle, unhurried kiss, testing the waters of something new. The softness gave way to deeper passion, a quiet hunger that left Mia's pulse racing. His arms circled her, pulling her closer until the space between them ceased to exist. They moved together as if guided by instinct, their mutual desire breaking through the hesitation that had held them apart for so long. Mia's thoughts blurred into sensation, the warmth of Ethan's breath, the strength of his embrace, the unspoken promises carried in every touch. Somehow, they found themselves tangled together on the couch, the world beyond Ethan's apartment completely forgotten. Their kisses grew more urgent, fueled by an uncontainable need for closeness. Mia's nerves melted into certainty, the last of her doubts swept away by the sincerity in Ethan's eyes. Are you sure? Ethan's voice was a husky whisper, his concern evident even in the midst of passion. Yes, Mia replied, her own voice breathless but sure. I want this. I want you. Their connection deepened, the night unfolding with all its intensity and vulnerability. Mia's senses drowned in the moment, her world narrowed to the man holding her like she was something precious. When their passion finally eased, they remained curled against each other, their breathing slowing to a gentle rhythm. Ethan's arms encircled her, his chest rising and falling beneath her cheek. Neither spoke, the silence rich with the unspoken truth of what they had just shared. Mia's eyes grew heavy, but her mind remained awake, tangled in thoughts of what this meant. The boundary between coach and player had been shattered, replaced by something fragile and exhilarating. As sleep crept closer, Mia clung to the warmth of Ethan's embrace, knowing the real world would catch up with them soon enough. But for now, this was enough. Morning sunlight seeped through the curtains, painting the room in soft amber hues. Mia stirred, her body wrapped in warmth and the steady rise and fall of Ethan's chest beneath her cheek. For a moment, everything felt perfect, untouched by the weight of reality. But as her eyes fully opened, clarity replaced the blissful haze. What had felt so right the night before now thudded against her mind with nervous urgency. Ethan was her coach. She was his player. They had crossed a line neither of them could simply redraw. Careful not to wake him, Emma sat up, pulling the blanket around herself. The apartment felt colder now, the silence heavier. What would this mean for them? For her future on the field? Couldn't sleep. Ethan's groggy voice shattered her spiraling thoughts. His eyes blinked open, sleepy but sharp with concern. Just thinking. Mia's voice trembled slightly, but she forced herself to meet his gaze. About everything. About us. He sat up, his expression cautious. I know. This complicates things. More than I wanted it to. So, what now? The question tumbled out before she could stop it. Ethan's hand found hers, his touch gentle but reassuring. I meant what I said last night. This doesn't have to be more than what you want. If you feel this was a mistake, I'll respect that. It wasn't a mistake, Mia said quickly, her own boldness surprising her. But it's not simple either. You're my coach. People will talk. And the team. They don't have to know. Not yet. Ethan's eyes searched hers, his sincerity unwavering. We can be careful. Professional during practice. Keep our personal lives separate. If that's what you want. Mia hesitated, her mind a tangle of doubt and desire. But beneath the fear was something real. Something worth fighting for. I don't want to pretend last night didn't happen. I need time to figure this out. Ethan's shoulders relaxed, a hint of relief easing his features. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. His words settled something in her, a reassurance that the ground beneath her feet wasn't crumbling, just shifting. They dressed in a silence that was comfortable, if not entirely free of tension. Ethan brewed coffee, its rich aroma filling the small apartment as they shared an unspoken truce. When it was time to leave, Emma lingered by the door, her fingers gripping the strap of her bag. So, we just act normal at practice. Ethan smiled, a touch of his usual confidence returning. Normal as ever. But when you're ready to talk about this, I'll be here. No pressure. Mia nodded, her own smile surfacing. I appreciate that. And I don't regret last night. Just so you know. Ethan's expression softened. Neither do I. With one last glance, Mia stepped out of the apartment and into the crisp morning air. Whatever lay ahead, she knew one thing for certain. Her life had changed. And she was willing to see where this unexpected path might lead.